Hey everyone, it's Ashley. Welcome back to the Trinity Stamps YouTube channel. Today I'm going to be using lots of different sets to create a really pretty floral wreath. I'm also going to be using some masking technique with this, and of the three sets that I'll be using, I'm going to be using the smallest stamps or smallest floral stamps in the sets themselves, and it's going to just create this really fun, cohesive floral wreath. So as you can see, I cut a circle with a circle die out of a piece of full sticky Post-it note, and it peels right off. The thing I like about these full sticky Post-its is that it really does not leave any residue. It doesn't pull any paper or any sort of like pills off the paper. It's really clean, and if you can mask it, if it's small enough to get onto the full sticky sheet of Post-it note, I always tend to go that way rather than masking paper. I just feel like it works a little bit better for me, but that's just my personal opinion on that. So again, of the three sets that I'm going to be using, I'm using the smallest floral stamps in each set. So I'm just grabbing some acrylic blocks and I'm going to be sort of rotating between sets of the flowers that I want to use. There's no real rhyme or reason. I just know that I want to make it look nice and full. And I actually do decide to just make it sort of like a partial wreath. So the flowers are going to be coming out of the wreath on the top left and the bottom right. To stamp this, I'm going to be using Memento Tuxedo Black ink because I will be doing some Copic coloring. And Memento Tuxedo Black is a Copic safe ink, meaning that the alcohol in the markers won't make the ink run. As you can see, I am stamping on top of the masked circle and then into the white cardstock. So when I peel the circle off of the card front, you won't get any stamped images in the center there, and even without making the circle, you'll be able to see the circle because we are stamping enough into that curve where the illusion of the circle will be visible. I'm going to speed this up in just a minute because it's a lot of repetition, but as you can see, I'm just basically trying to keep it full. I also try to keep the lines from overlapping one another because it'll be easier for me to go in and color if the lines of the stamps aren't overlapping. I did consider masking the florals themselves for this, but these florals are so small, and by the time I stamped them all, it looked nice and full anyway, that I didn't think it was really necessary. But you could definitely mask if you had the time and you wanted to put in the effort of masking all of these tiny floral pieces. I think it would look beautiful, but I don't think it's necessary for the size of the florals in this wreath to do it. So if you keep the lines, or you try to keep the lines away from each other, it should be easy enough to map out and color with your Copics when you get to that point. I know that right now this looks like a huge mess, but I promise you when I zoom you in and you start to see how the coloring comes together, you will be able to sort of visualize what I saw when I was stamping. So I'm peeling off that circle now, and now you can see what I was talking about, how we stamped enough into the curve of the circle that the circle itself doesn't need to be drawn for you to be able to see the circle. So I'm going to go ahead in with my coloring now, and I am going to speed this up quite a bit, but I do use 2 colors for each flower or leaf, sometimes 3 depending on the size of the flower. But if you go back to my video last week, you'll see how I sort of make sure that I get every little leaf and flower in these tiny stamped images, and I just go in and map out first all of the leaves that I want to color, and I do my darkest shade on all of them, followed by the lighter shade, and then the darkest shade on each flower of a specific kind and color. And this is just how I make sure that I get every single flower and every single leaf colored and that none of them are left out. And also helps me make sure that I don't mix up my coloring and color a leaf like a flower or vice versa. And because I did speed this up quite a bit, all of the Copic colors will be listed in the description if you are interested in seeing what I used. So here is my completed wreath. I'm going to go ahead and stamp my sentiment right there in the center of the circle. And I'm using my mini MISTI for this. Anytime that I am stamping directly onto a card front that I've already taken quite a while to design, I want to make sure that it comes out as perfectly as possible the first time. I definitely don't want to have a slip up or a mistake and then have to restamp and recolor this wreath. That would be a little devastating. So anytime that I am stamping directly onto a card front, rather than sort of like putting a piece of cardstock or a sentiment strip onto the card front, I make sure that I use precautions like using the MISTI to make sure that this is exactly where I want it, and that if it doesn't come out perfectly the first time, I can go ahead and restamp it. So I use my MISTI for that, and you can use any stamp positioning tool that you might have. And then after I stamp this, I will be done. I go ahead and stamp it twice because I had considered embossing it with clear embossing powder, but then I just realized that I liked the simplicity of it all. I also didn't add any sequins, which I was sort of going back and forth about, but I think that I really love it just the way that it is, nice and clean and simple. As always, my personal channel is linked in the description if you are interested. Also, links to the shop and all of the products used are in the description. Thank you so much for stopping by, and I will see you soon. Thanks. Bye.